dive. Today we're going deep, really deep, into, well, the raw power of nature. The kind of stuff that, you see it and think, how did anybody make it out of that?
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've got this YouTube compilation here. It's called 75 Shocking Natural Disasters Ever Caught on Camera. And honestly, some of this stuff, it's just unbelievable. I mean, we're talking a bus flipped over by a storm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, goats like escaping a flash flood, cars just swept away like they're nothing, like bathtub toys.
Yeah, I've seen this one.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild ride. And to help us make sense of all this, to help us understand what we're seeing, I've got our expert guide right here with us. You ready to dive in?
Absolutely, yeah. It's one thing to see these events, right?
Yeah.
But to actually, understand the science behind it all, it's a whole other level of wow.
It really is. So, okay, this bus getting flipped by the wind, I was not expecting that.
Crazy.
It just shows you never know with Mother Nature what she's going to throw at you.
Yeah, you never know.
Right.
And it's so easy to underestimate, the power of wind, especially in, severe weather.
Yeah.
What we're probably seeing there is what's called a microburst.
Oh, okay.
A microburst, it's basically a sudden downdraft of air that hits the ground.
Yeah.
And it hits the ground hard with incredible force. It's almost like a tiny tornado,
Oh, yeah.
Just concentrated in this small area.
Yeah, yeah. And that bus looked like it was going at a pretty good speed, too.
Exactly. And depending on, the shape of the vehicle, the size, those winds can just, catch it just right.
Yep.
And create enough force to just flip it right over.
I could see that, yeah.
It's scary. It's a reminder that even when we think we're safe in our vehicles, we're not. Not always. Not completely protected from the elements.
It's true. It's true. That's a sobering thought. Okay, those goats in that flash flood, oh my gosh, they were literally swimming for their lives 1 minute
Mm-hmm.
and then miraculously just scrambling to safety the next. How do some animals manage to survive these sudden floods, while others, they don't?
Well, it's a bunch of things. It's instinct, it's luck. And
Yeah.
and the specifics of the flood itself, the terrain plays a huge role. I mean, if there's higher ground nearby, the animals, they have a better chance of escaping that rushing water. But it's, the speed of the water, the volume, that's crucial too. This video, it doesn't give us all the details, but it seems like the water level rose really quickly, but then subsided pretty fast too, giving those goats a fighting chance.
Yeah, I was holding my breath for those goats.
I know, me too.
I have to admit, that's nature for you.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's brutal. And speaking of brutal, this video shows some pretty intense footage of cars just being swept away by floodwaters. It's hard to believe how easily, like a metal car, can be moved by water,
It's true. It is. It's a reminder that water, it's incredibly powerful, especially when it's moving fast. Even a shallow stream, if it's flowing rapidly, can generate enough force to move a car easily.
Wow.
Imagine what, a full-blown flood can do.
No kidding. That's why they tell you, right? Don't drive through flooded roads.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it doesn't look that deep.
It's just not worth the risk. The power of the water can really surprise you. And it's easy to misjudge the depth, the force of that current. Plus, you never know what's under the surface. Debris, potholes, downed power lines even. Play it safe. Find another way around.
Okay, all right. Let's talk tsunamis. The video shows this wave crashing over a cruise ship. I mean, these ships, they're enormous.
I know, it's unbelievable.
How does a wave
get
big enough to do that?
Most tsunamis, they're caused by earthquakes or underwater volcanic eruptions. These events, they displace a massive amount of water, creating these waves that can travel across entire oceans. And as these waves, they approach shallower coastal waters, they slow down, and their energy gets compressed, creating those towering walls of water that we see in the video.
Wow. So it's not just like the height of the wave, right? It's the force behind it that's really destructive.
Exactly, yeah. And think about the sheer volume of water. I mean, it's not like a regular wave that breaks on the shore. This is a massive surge that can travel inland for miles, causing just widespread devastation.
That makes sense. What's really striking to me is the human element in these videos. You see people reacting with this awe and fear.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it makes you realize how small we are compared to these forces of nature,
Absolutely. Absolutely. These events, they can be terrifying and humbling, but they also show the incredible resilience of the human spirit. We see people helping each other, rebuilding their lives, adapting to their changed circumstances. It's a reminder that even in the face of these immense challenges, there's always hope.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, shifting gears a bit here. We've got some jaw-dropping footage of landslides. In the video, there's this one in China that just leaves this massive scar on the landscape.
It's unbelievable, yeah.
Is there any way to predict these events? Or do they just, like, happen out of the blue?
Well, landslides, they're often triggered by specific events, like heavy rainfall, earthquakes, even volcanic activity. While some can occur suddenly, there are often warning signs beforehand.
Like what? What kind of warning signs?
Well, changes in the slope, like cracks in the ground, unusual water flow. Those are all red flags, you know? Geologists, they monitor areas that are prone to landslides, looking for these signs to assess the risks, advise on safety measures. It's not a perfect science, but it does help mitigate some of the danger.
So it's kind of like playing detective, looking for clues that something might be about to happen.
Exactly, yeah. And the more we understand about, the underlying geology, the triggers for these landslides, the better we can predict them, prepare for them.
Okay, I got to ask about this clip. From the earthquake in Turkey. The video shows water in a swimming pool, like sloshing violently.
Yeah.
Is that actually caused by the earthquake, or is it just a coincidence?
Nope. No, that's definitely the earthquake. What you're seeing is a visual representation of those seismic waves traveling through the earth. Imagine like dropping a pebble in a pond and watching the ripples spread out. It's the same principle, just on a much larger scale.
So the earthquake is literally shaking the ground.
Yeah.
And the water in the pool is reacting to that movement.
Exactly. And it's not just swimming pools. You see this in lakes, rivers, even the ocean during an earthquake. It's a reminder that these events, they can have like far-reaching impacts, even on things that seem totally unrelated at first glance.
I never would guess that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Then there's this house in the video. That gets swept away by floodwaters, and it literally turns into a boat. How does that even happen?
Well, when floodwaters rise rapidly, they can exert tremendous pressure on structures, especially if the ground is saturated, can't absorb the water fast enough. If a house isn't properly anchored to its foundation, the rising water can just lift it right off.
Wow.
And if that current is strong enough, it can carry the house away.
It's like something out of a disaster movie.
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. And unfortunately, it's a reality for many people who live in flood-prone areas.
That's true. Well, this brings us to the 7.1 magnitude earthquake that hit Alaska in 2018. The video shows, a lot of shaking, but it's hard to grasp the scale of an earthquake just from watching it.
Right, yeah, it's tough.
You know what I mean?
It is to grasp the power of an earthquake just from visuals. That magnitude scale, it's logarithmic, meaning each whole number increase represents a 10-fold increase in the amplitude of those seismic waves. So a 7.1 earthquake releases about 32 times more energy than a 6.1 earthquake.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that puts things in perspective. And Alaska is known for being seismically active.
Absolutely, yeah. It sits right on the boundary of the Pacific and North American tectonic plates, which are constantly moving, grinding against each other. This makes the region very prone to earthquakes, and Alaskans are generally well prepared for these events.
Oh, that's good to hear. So even though a 7.1 magnitude earthquake is a major event, right? The damage was probably less severe than it might have been in an area not used to earthquakes.
Exactly. Building codes in Alaska, they're designed to withstand that seismic activity. And there's a strong culture of earthquake preparedness. This helps to minimize damage and casualties when these events occur.
Right. All right, we've covered some truly massive forces of nature so far. Earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides. But this video also shows something that seems small, but can be incredibly destructive. Locust swarms. These swarms they're shown devouring crops, leaving entire fields bare. It's amazing how something so tiny can cause such widespread damage,
It's all about strength in numbers. Individually, locusts aren't particularly harmful, but when they swarm, they form these dense clouds containing millions, even billions of insects. And each locust can consume its own weight in food daily.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like a moving blanket of hunger just descending on a field. No wonder it's so devastating for farmers.
It is, yeah. A swarm can strip a field bare in a matter of hours, leading to, devastating consequences for agriculture, food security. It's a reminder of how interconnected our ecosystem is and how even these seemingly small creatures can have a huge impact.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Floods, earthquakes, even locusts. Before we move on to more of these incredible clips, what what's been the most striking thing for you so far? What really stood out?
Well, it's been fascinating to see, the sheer diversity of natural forces at play here, and the reminder that while these events can be terrifying and destructive, they're also a testament to the power and dynamism of our planet.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's about respect, right?
Yeah.
Respecting the power of nature
Yeah.
and understanding that we're part of this much larger system.
Absolutely, yeah. And that understanding, can help us better prepare, mitigate the impacts of these events. There's a lot we can learn from observing these natural forces,
Right.
and a lot we can do to protect ourselves, our communities. Yeah, it is. It's a humbling experience for sure.
Okay, back to the video. There's this footage of this massive dust cloud just rolling towards a ship. It's like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. What are we looking at there?
That's a haboob.
A haboob.
Yeah, it's a type of intense dust storm, often triggered by thunderstorms in those arid regions. As the storm's downdraft hits the ground, it creates this wall of dust and debris that can travel at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour,
60 miles an hour.
engulfing everything in its path.
Wow. That looks absolutely terrifying. And then bam, there's this incredible shot of this lightning bolt that just lights up the entire sky.
Yeah.
It's like someone flipped on a giant celestial light switch. What makes some lightning strikes so much more powerful than others?
That's a good question. The intensity of a lightning strike, it really depends on the amount of electrical charge that builds up in those storm clouds. Some storms, they just generate much higher charges than others, leading to those super bolts that we see in the video. These powerful strikes, they can be incredibly dangerous, igniting fires, causing power outages, widespread power outages.
Wow. It's amazing how much power was packed into a single bolt of lightning.
And speaking of things falling from the sky, this video shows some hailstorms that are they're insane. I mean, these hailstones, they're the size of baseballs, some even bigger. How does hail get so huge?
It's all about the updrafts.
Yeah.
Within those thunderstorms, strong updrafts, they can keep hailstones suspended in the cloud
Yeah.
for longer periods, allowing them to collide with these supercooled water droplets. These droplets, they freeze onto the hailstone's surface, adding layer upon layer of ice until they just become too heavy to stay aloft.
So it's like a giant chaotic ice cream maker up in the sky. But instead of delicious treats, we get these potentially destructive ice bombs.
Exactly, yeah.
This video also shows a typhoon hitting Taiwan, bringing with it, intense flooding and rainfall. Typhoons, they always seem to cause so much damage. What makes them so different from regular storms? Typhoons, also known as hurricanes or cyclones, depending on the region, are essentially rotating storms that form over warm ocean waters. They're fueled by the heat and moisture rising from the ocean surface, creating these powerful winds, torrential rain, storm surges. That can cause, widespread damage.
So it's the combination of the wind, the rain, and those storm surges
I know
that makes them so destructive.
Exactly. And the fact that they can cover such a wide area means they can impact, entire coastlines.
Right, right. The video also features a volcanic eruption in the Philippines, where lava's flowing into a lake, and it triggers this massive explosion. It's a reminder that these eruptions, they aren't always just about, like, lava flows. There's a whole lot of other stuff that can be ejected as well.
Right, yeah. Volcanic eruptions, they're incredibly complex events aside from lava. They can release ash, gas, even pyroclastic flows, which are these superheated mixtures of gas and volcanic debris that can travel at speeds of over 100 miles per hour.
100 miles an hour. That's incredible and terrifying. It makes you realize how unpredictable and powerful these events can be. Okay, this next clip, this really got to me. There's this man trapped in floodwaters, clinging to a tree. It's a stark reminder of how quickly these situations can turn life-threatening.
It is, yeah. Floodwaters can rise rapidly and unexpectedly, making it so important to have an evacuation plan. Stay informed about weather warnings, potential risks. In this case, it's fortunate that the man was able to find a safe spot, wait for rescue.
Yeah, that tree might have saved his life, and it highlights how important it is, to know what to do in a flood. Do you have any advice for people who might find themselves in a similar situation?
Absolutely, if you're caught in a flood. The most important thing is to stay calm. Try to reach higher ground. If you can't evacuate, find a sturdy structure or object to cling to like that man did with the tree, and never attempt to drive or walk through floodwaters. It's incredibly dangerous.
Good advice. Good advice. Okay, there's this terrifying rock flood, just this torrent of boulders and debris surging down a mountainside. It's like nature's own bulldozer,
Yeah.
carving its way through the landscape. What causes something like that to happen?
Rock sleds, also known as debris flows, are often triggered by a heavy rainfall or rapid snowmelt in those mountainous areas. The water saturates the soil, making it unstable, prone to landslides. These landslides then pick up loose rocks and debris as they flow downhill, creating a powerful and destructive force.
So it's like a chain reaction. The rain weakens the soil, triggers a landslide, and then everything just gets swept away in this torrent of rock and mud.
Precisely. And these debris flows, they can travel at incredible speeds, making them so dangerous they can just destroy everything in their path. Homes, bridges, roads.
It's amazing how something that starts with rainfall can end up causing such widespread destruction. The video also captures the sheer force of wind in a really dramatic way. A ship weighing a staggering 230,000 tons gets pushed effortlessly by the strong gust of wind.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
It's a stunning example of how even something as massive as a ship can be at the mercy of the wind, the shape and surface area of the ship, combined with the wind's speed and direction, create this powerful force that can easily move it off course.
It's a good thing those ships have, powerful engines to help them navigate those strong winds.
Absolutely. And skilled captains and crews who know how to handle their vessels in those challenging conditions.
Then we have an avalanche.
Yeah.
A slow-moving but incredibly powerful wall of snow thundering down a mountainside. It's mesmerizing to watch, but also terrifying.
Yeah.
What causes avalanches, and is there any way to predict them?
Avalanches, they're triggered when layers of snow become unstable, break loose. They can be caused by a variety of factors: heavy snowfall, rapid temperature changes, or even human activity, like skiing or snowmobiling in avalanche-prone areas.
So even something as simple as someone skiing down a slope could trigger an avalanche.
It's possible, yeah. Especially if the snowpack is already unstable. That's why it's so crucial for skiers and snowboarders to be aware of the risks. Take proper precautions like checking avalanche forecasts, carrying safety equipment.
It's a reminder that we need to be aware of our surroundings, respect the power of nature, even when we're out enjoying ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The video continues with this footage of a rock slide,
Yeah.
sending this cascade of boulders down a cliff face. It's like a scene from an action movie, but with real-life consequences.
Right, yeah. Rock slides, they occur when rocks break loose from cliffs or those steep slopes, often due to weathering, erosion, seismic activity. The size and speed of those rocks involved can make these events extremely dangerous to anyone in their path.
It's like nature's own rock-throwing competition, but with much higher stakes.
Yeah, you could say that.
We also see the aftermath of a hailstorm. With this vehicle completely battered by those giant hailstones, it looks like it's been through a war zone.
Hailstorms can cause significant damage to property and crops. The size and speed of those hailstones, combined with their density, can dent metal, shatter glass, even strip bark from trees. That's why it's so important to seek shelter during those severe hailstorms.
No kidding. That car in the video, it looks like it went through a hailstorm machine gun.
Yeah, it does.
And then there's this incredible scene of a storm so powerful that it overturns these massive tankers like they're toys. The sheer force of the wind is just unbelievable.
Those are likely what we call derecho events.
Derecho.
Yeah, they're widespread, long-lived windstorms associated with these fast-moving lines of severe thunderstorms. They can generate hurricane-force winds that can cause, significant damage, as we see in the video.
Derecho. That's a new one for me. What makes them different from a regular thunderstorm?
But derecho is essentially a line of powerful thunderstorms that move quickly and produce these strong straight-line winds. Think of it like a squall line on steroids. They can travel for hundreds of miles, causing widespread damage along their path.
Okay, so that explains why those tankers were getting tossed around like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much power is packed into those storms.
Yeah.
As we continue through this compilation, I'm struck by the sheer variety of natural disasters captured on camera. It's both awe-inspiring and humbling to see the power of nature unleashed in so many ways. What's been your most surprising takeaway from the video so far?
What's fascinating to me is the sheer range of scales involved. We see these massive events like tsunamis and earthquakes, but also these seemingly smaller events like hailstorms and flash floods that can be equally destructive, It highlights that no matter the size, these events can have a profound impact on human lives and the environment.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just about the size of the event,
Yeah.
but also about its context, right? And
Yeah.
how it interacts with
Yeah.
human settlements and infrastructure. Even something like a hailstorm,
Yeah.
which might seem, relatively minor
Yeah.
compared to an earthquake, can cause massive damage if it hits a densely populated area.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how we, design and build our cities and towns, right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, one last clip that caught my eye. There's this footage of this massive wave just crashing against this coastline. I'm guessing that's a rogue wave. It looks absolutely monstrous. What makes these waves different from, your typical ocean swells?
Rogue waves are exactly what the name suggests. They're these unexpectedly large and powerful waves that seem to just appear out of nowhere. They can be 2 to 3 times the size of the surrounding waves, and they often occur in areas with strong currents, changing seafloor topography.
So it's like the ocean throws a curveball, right? And catches anyone in its path. Exactly, yeah. They've been a source of maritime legends for centuries, but it's only in recent decades that scientists have really started to understand them.
That's fascinating and kind of spooky, to be honest. This video also shows a landslide just slowly but surely sweeping away countless trees. It's like nature's reclaiming what was once hers.
Landslides are a natural process that shape landscapes over time. They remind us that the Earth's surface is constantly changing, evolving, and that we need to respect these natural processes.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're not always in control.
Not at all, and that's a valuable lesson to learn.
Well said. Well said. We've witnessed everything from the fury of wind and water to the power of earthquakes and volcanoes. It's been a wild ride, but it's also been incredibly eye-opening. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we sign off?
I think the key takeaway here is that while we can't control nature, we can better understand and prepare for these events, knowing the risks in your region, having an emergency plan in place, and staying informed about weather warnings can make all the difference. We've seen the destruction these events can cause, but we've also seen the resilience of people and communities in the face of these challenges.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that knowledge is power, right? And being prepared can help us navigate even the most unpredictable forces of nature. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the raw power of nature. And to our listeners, stay safe, stay informed, and never underestimate the forces that shape our world.